Where are you at right now?
I'm let me flip the camera around so you can see. My computer shit the bed the other day, so just 'cause of my phone. But right now I'm in Avon. It's that town next to Vail. You came to visit.
Yep.
You guys remember how I was asleep when you originally got to Vail, so you ended up having to keep going west?
Oh, yeah. We kept going.
Yeah. So this was the next town over, right by Beaver Creek. So it's fucking nice out. I was just out here for a run earlier, so.
Dude, that's crazy. So you keep running. How far away do you live from that original spot that we came and visited you at?
Not too far. Within like a 20-minute drive. That spot was dope though. That house was pretty tight.
Next level, dude. It fucking made it in the shade there.
Yeah, no, it was sick, but the lady, thought there was 5 chicks living there. There was like 4 dudes and 6 girls living there. Granted, it was like a 8-bedroom house still.
Right. I remember that whole mix around. That was crazy, man. Well,
Yeah,
at least looks like that you've been getting out, getting some exercise, man, staying healthy, keeping your head up, and keep the positivity going.
Yeah, dude, trying, man. Cause like fuck, I remember we talked about it a little. Like, cause I moved to South Carolina because I got married and everything back in March. Did you know that?
I had no idea.
Oh, dude, yeah. So
Congrats on that. Back in March, like a month ago, Mark?
No, sorry. March of last year, and then got divorced this Thanksgiving.
Okay, I'm sorry it didn't work out.
Oh no, dude, I'm I tell a lot of people because I have a lot of homies and they're like, oh man, I'm sorry it didn't work out, and I'm like, bro, don't be sorry. It got divorced for a reason, and yeah, man. So I'm happy to be back, loving life, doing the things I love and whatnot. So it's fucking nice being back up here instead of South Carolina.
Yeah. I think Colorado's more your state anyway. You're from Michigan though, right? Right? You grew up next to Cam and everybody, Cam and Jeff and them.
Yes. Well, I I was born in Canada, but I moved to North Carolina when I was 10, and then to Michigan when I was 14. So yeah, I spent the majority of
No idea.
Yeah. So been all over the place. But yeah, man, you're right. Colorado, guys like you and me, Colorado, California, Montana, Wyoming, like Michigan's
Free
cool.
spirits go to Rome, man.
Yeah, Michigan's cool and all. It's a good place to raise a family, but there's just like nothing to do other than joining all the bros for the Royal Oak bar night. Other than that, there's
Totally. That's why I got out of Buffalo, man. Well, I mean, I went to college, obviously, at Kettering, but then why I got out of Kettering, like, I just I'm just too, call it anxious, if you will. Like, I just have a hard time just settling. So I'm very ADD, and I need infinite things to dive into, whether it's information or hobbies or sports, constant ever-changing rotations. I mean, shit, like that's why my career right now as a research design engineer is perfect for me, because I'm essentially that guy who didn't want to do anything else that the team sought out and was like, hey, this is what we got going. I'm the guy who was like, yo, man, you guys got anything else I can work on? And then they're like, all right, Ryan, you're working on the future things. You take our current product and you dream up the new possibilities and fucking figure it out then. So I'm that guy. It was just perfect for that sort of mindset, just to be like, just be able to quickly maneuver. And excuse me, I'm kind of jacked up on coffee right now, so I'm a little bit hyped.
Oh, bro, you're good, man. I know that feeling. Took some pre-workout earlier, so I still got that niacin jitters. But dude, your job seriously looks fucking dope, man.
It's fun, man. I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, the team is badass. Like, we have a team of about 40 people. And, right now we've hit the ground running. We're manufacturing. I know maybe you've seen my Instagram stories or any of like TikTok things, but COVID-19 test swabs all the way. We're ramping up. We're roughly between 50 and 100,000 of these things per day.
Jesus.
Dude, it's nonstop factory line. We've converted our whole entire operation into a factory. producing these things.
Yeah,
Streamline
I
the
saw
process.
the owner of its Origin, right? They said they're doing 100% COVID stuff, right?
Yep, yep. So what we used to do, right? We used to make, design, and manufacture these 3D printers
Uh-huh.
using an open materials model, open materials, open hardware, open. Not. I'm hesitant to say open source because the software isn't open source, but like more of an open approach compared to other 3D print technologies, and which allows people to like big companies like BASF, Henkel, DSM, other big conglomerate chemical manufacturers to produce specific chemicals that give very precise mechanical properties, and then we could print anything at a reasonably fast rate and mass produce not only our printer but mass produce anything that's broken in the supply chain. Example is COVID-19 test swabs. That's just one example, or whether they need a snorkel adapter to retrofit, face masks into respirators. The possibility. If you could dream it at this moment, you can make it and build it up.
Dude, that's cool, man. So what are these it looks like they're just like little long plastic things with almost like a honeycomb type of tip. Is there anything in them, or is it just the way they're designed that they can
Yeah.
kind of?
So, I actually haven't seen what the normally manufactured test swab looks like, but what the
Mhm.
3D printed manufactured test swabs look like, they call it a lattice. A lattice is really like this unique geometry that is just made with a bunch of bars and structures that give it specific mechanical properties. So the tip, so as you know, there's just the stem, which is the holding point. There's a little breaking point, so you can break it, like if you really wiggle it off and then eventually breaks off, so you could drop it into a test tube, go get tested. But the actual tip itself, that was something that had to be very precisely dialed in, because you don't want any 3D printer to make these things and then just label it as, I've seen they could print it. Well, my printer can kind of print the same thing. But that's a problem when people start to do that, because as soon as one of these things breaks off into somebody's nose because they didn't go through all the right steps, like everything we're taking batches and we're sending it right to Harvard and the Army, and they're going through specific mechanical tests just to validate everything. There's very unique and specific pull tests, compression tests, bend tests that this thing has to go through in order to be deemed valid and okay. It has to be very similar to a normal test swab. So the lattice it's like a honeycomb sort of tip. It kind of looks like a little like a long Q-tip, like it's about like that long. They stick it in your nose, right, and then they twist it around, and that tip is going to collect all of the biological material, which they then
Okay.
break it off, and then they stick it in. The machine that they use is called an Abbott M2000. That's like the gold standard of PCR testing. PCR is some fancy acronym. I'm not even going to begin to guess on that. But but here's where this dilemma for my own internal man starts to arise. We're making all of these hundreds of thousands of test swabs for COVID-19. Okay. So naturally, because I'm sitting here behind the Dynamax, behind the whole post cure and washing and creating production for these things, man, like I'm starting to, I have to ask and start to probe into understanding everything about this, just for my own knowledge, my own curiosity. And dude, I have uncovered so much information. All I do is, man, is because I'm post curing a lot of the times, because we're still waiting to get contractors ramped up. So I have to do a lot of the grunt work, the manual tasks, pick it up, put it down, let it run through, get it back, flip it, pick it up. So I'm at this post cure machine for hours on end. Well, what do I do with my mind while my body is just habitually doing it? Well, I'm absorbing podcasts. I'm absorbing information from all over the globe, different perspectives. I'm watching Chinese journalist videos. I'm watching economist videos. I'm watching people who are, like the Wolf of Wall Street or Brian Rose, everything from them to Gary Vee. And dude, my mind is going nuts trying to figure out how I should act during this time, how afraid I should be during this time, how much I should believe that everything in front of me is the way it is. And dude, I've uncovered a lot of weird things in this point in time, man. I am a person who advocates for science and scientific studies and everything. But the state of the fact is that we don't live in a world where streamlined science is brought to the surface, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Politics play too much of a point, play too much into power, and people suppress information, and I just don't trust anything that's going on. And so where that leaves me is I have to hold two opposing views constantly in my mind, whether COVID-19, on the side of COVID-19 conspiracy and COVID-19, what is broadcasted science. And and these topics, I don't make any decision. I simply analyze the spread and I connect the dots as much as I can to try to make as much logical sense of what I know, what I've seen, what I've heard, and how the story trends start to unravel. But I think that there's a lot of shit that just doesn't line up, my man. There's too much shit.
There's so much to unpack in there because when first of all, the science part, which is probably the most important, when people will come at you and say, oh, if you question anything, they're like, what, you don't believe in science? And I'm like, well, what do you mean science? Because first of all, the WHO, which is owned by China, they wouldn't even admit Taiwan as a country. They acted like they lost the signal and moved on,
Right.
which was, just so revealing in itself of their own interests. But it's like, well, okay, well, what science are you talking about? Because are you talking about the science that fits your narrative? Because science is one forever changing. It's not like some indefinite thing, except for 2 + 2 is 4. Yeah.
Right.
But it's like, well, first, they came out and said that this can't be transferred from human to human, only from animal to human. And understandably, because it was all new, but then, they kept changing things. And what's more fishy than anything is not only the time it's happening, but what else is going on. So one for the 5G stuff, people all say, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. And it's like, well, I believe in conspiracies. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. It's like Operation Northwoods, when the Joint Chiefs of Staff signed off to blow up an American airliner and then arm Cuban rebels to raid a military base. And then, thank God, JFK vetoed that. Like, what the fuck? And so you got all these 5G towers going up right now when they haven't done much studies on it. And there have been videos of birds being completely fried and falling dead next to these towers. And it's like people chastise you for asking questions. And logical questions too, because this is all like a political thing. Like all these Democrats, Republicans, they're all capitalizing on it to make it, political or whatnot. I don't know if this whole thing is like being pushed worse by the media for them knowing that the pedo with dementia might not win, and I'm not the biggest Trump guy either, but at the same time, I just get super scared of the hypocrisy because man, there's so much to unpack with all this stuff. Because dude, like those videos that we both have seen where doctors were saying, like the one doctor who said this elderly lady died from pneumonia. She tested negative for COVID, but since her son tested positive for COVID, they listed that as her cause of death. Which, by the way, I don't know if you know, that video was taken down.
I can
All these
imagine.
other videos are taken down, and at the same time, before I say this, I might get a lot of flack for it, so I'll preface this. I'm super grateful for all these healthcare workers and whatnot,
Right.
but you see these pictures going around on Facebook of like a nurse, a picture of her crying, and then it's some long story of how many bodies they've seen. But at the same time, it's like you go on TikTok and there are all these videos of doctors and nurses and hospital staff like jumping around, like dancing and whatnot. Yeah, I'll also acknowledge people are human, but at the same time, if you're truly witnessing like dead bodies and stuff, like you're blowing off steam and you're gonna be putting up a TikTok of you with like a balloon in your butt shaking and it's working. You know what I mean? So like at this point you don't know what to believe because like the London Real video was pretty crazy. The fact that it was taken down, and that's no like
Well,
Alex
that's
Jones
it.
war. That's a legit.
Right. That's a legit person who is there on the ground, bootstraps, who has built a company around broadcasting himself and
He's not
interviewing.
biased.
Yes. And whether or not the people that he has on are correct, politically correct or not, it channels something to, you have to question when every single video like that is being taken down, not only taken down, but LinkedIn went in and deleted the London Real platform as well as his account, but then later reversed their decision. And and the fact that all of these other doctors that, like Dr. Andrew Kaufman, who really goes and analyzes what a PCR test is, which is what the nose swab is using, and how the efficacy of the PCR test is not as accurate. And again, like, I am merely a parrot, but and I know just basic information to connect dots. And I know top level surface, but I know top level surface enough to dive into the Google rabbit holes to uncover information, which is okay. But my point is, man, like, we gotta all voice these sort of concerns of what's going on, because there's a lot more than what's meeting the eye. Like, and especially when you're looking at Los Angeles, who's paying people to go out and snitch on people for it, dude. I feel like I'm watching a movie unfold in front of me. This is Nazi Germany starting to roll out again.
For real. It's like rat on your comrades. It's, you know what I mean? It's, bro, it's so scary because, well, one, it's even hard to Google because I don't know if you ever like dove into the Project Veritas stuff, but like, Project Veritas was basically an organization where they had people from Google, Facebook, high-level employees anonymously reaching out with audio clips of Google higher ups, emails from Google higher ups telling them to change certain things. They've changed definitions. I mean, if you even go into Google and you look up the definition of fascism, and then you go into the actual dictionary and look it up. Google has a political point of view, whether they like to admit it or not. They're all in Silicon Valley, and whether that's just for business or how they believe doesn't matter. Alternating people's, I mean, for example, like getting rid of YouTube videos on vaccine, or getting rid of YouTube videos on COVID, demonetizing them, this and that.
Or
And it's like, yeah, or 5G. And it's like, okay, you can say we're doing this for the public safety, but yet you have so many other videos on YouTube that promote way more dangerous things. That the fact that ISIS had a Twitter, I don't even know if they still do, but that stuff like that exists. But then they say, oh, if you call somebody a woman who used to be a man, you're banned from Twitter for life. But hold on, let's watch ISIS tweet out. So it's like,
and you know what? You know what? I think bottom line, where people get where people get squirrely about this. I actually had a friend who I was just chatting with, which he poses a valid point, which is when you bring these sort of topics up, everything from China to how they suppress information, how they snatch up reporters and label them as quarantine, to their totalitarian, all the way to China and the pockets of Tedros and how Tedros is connected to the World Health Organization. WHO is then funded by half Bill Gates, half the US, which the US just pulled out of, by the way, but then now it's funded by Bill Gates and the Melinda Foundation, who also is a big part of the Center of Disease Control. And as we know, Bill Gates wants to stick a needle in everything that fucking moves. And he's also been on camera discussing depopulation agendas. And then how, when you then relate this to where there's a fear mongering of, I go into the grocery store and people look at me like I'm the fucking boogie monster walking towards them in fear. And that fear has been spread by news media, which is also owned by corporations, which the only incentive to put out news is to get you to watch it. And how do they get you to watch it? Well, you either they're not going to watch some fluffy piece. They want news breaking headlines. So you cue in and you want to see, oh, what's going to happen to Donald Trump? What's going to happen to Nancy Pelosi? What's happening to the UN? So then those people get funded by the advertisers, and those advertisers and everything keep pushing this fear-based agenda. And then when you control the other news outlets of YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever other the news sources may pop up, and now we see those platforms removing people like London Real, like David Icke, like Dr. Buttar and Dr. Shiva, and all of these other people who are not invoking violence. They are simply saying, hey guys, something's up. There's a lot of dots that if you connect them logically, they follow something weird is going on, whether it is China trying to get their totalitarian regime on us, or whether it's one giant conspiracy. But it's just weird that now Google and Apple are creating applications, and and then they're talking about a passport ID to whether or not you're immune or you've been vaccinated. So imagine a world of this, to where the government says that you are positive or you are negative based on if you have the vaccine. So now you have an application on your phone, and you're not allowed in restaurants if you don't have the vaccine. You're not allowed on airplanes if you don't have vaccine. And then you also take the 5G, which I mean, aside from the unknown, right? Because we're increasing power, we're increasing frequency of out of things. It's unknown. And I'm not saying, I don't think 5G causes coronavirus, and to be transparent, I think the coronavirus is a thing. I think that but it's weird that also Wuhan has a level 4 pandemic lab in there. And suppression of information, the whole thing just seems weird. Now, coming to this point, the world asks, the whole world in on a conspiracy, all of these doctors, well, wait. We got to see who controls the world, and you find that out when you follow the money chain and you understand how money is produced in the fractional reserve lending and everything that goes on in the Federal Reserve and how companies make money. And then you also take the fact that the United States was a global economic power, and now during this shutdown, with China is also constantly withholding masks, so we can't even lift out of this pandemic phase because they have all of our equipment. So China withholding the equipment, we have to quickly try to manufacture things here. Now you see the economic power of US is now dropping, and everybody is now 30% forced into unemployment, and it's a fucking crazy time. And not to say that the whole world is in on the conspiracy, but I think that there is a lot of things that start from China and get ruled out, and it just goes, you just got to follow the money chain and who benefits from an economic meltdown. Now that stocks are at an all-time low, You know,
Yeah.
the people who have trillions of dollars, they don't give a fuck. It's their time to buy, baby. It's their time to buy all of these companies up, to buy the United States, which are owned by the GDP of the companies. And now, and some people could say, yeah, this is China's doing. They're doing it so they could then buy more into the U.S. They're going to crash, whatever the fuck. But we, the people, need to just gather up this information, not censor these opposing ideologies of the World Health Organization, which again, Ted Rose, China, Bill Gates. It just seems a little bit weird and fishy to not at least question it. It's something that should be taken seriously and should just be looked into, even if it's the slightest little bit.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
and I guarantee you, if I posted this, I wouldn't. If I posted this on YouTube or whatever, I would not even.
dude, even
I'll probably
Facebook.
rip her right
You know
down.
how many of our friends would of our when I say friends, I mean like Facebook friends, would when you question something nowadays, people automatically assume that that's your stance on something. And let's chat on Bill Gates real quick because I actually know somebody who knows Bill Gates extremely well. This one real estate client of mine, I won't say his name. He's probably one of the biggest environmental lawyers in the country, and he used to represent companies who sued Microsoft back in the day. And here's a couple things when people like to say, "Oh, Bill Gates is a good guy." Well, this guy basically told me that Bill Gates is one of the scummiest people he's ever met in his entire life. First of all, he said Microsoft got their whole operating system. They stole it from Apple. So basically, they stole some files from Apple and they had them at one of their uh, what would you call it? Not like a CFO, but one of like the higher ups in the company. She had it at her house. Well, this lawyer got a subpoena to get those files from her, and he got the subpoena on Friday to get the files on Monday. Well, over the weekend, where the files were in her garage, there was a mysterious garage fire, and all those files burned up. And he would just basically tell me all these different things. I mean, if you look up, most people don't have a lot of nice things to say about Bill Gates. And I'm pretty sure there were even some instances where people got infected from, I think it was maybe the vaccine that he brought to some certain countries. Now,
Yep.
I'm not saying 100% Bill Gates is trying to depopulate the world, but I'm saying he's talked about it. I'm saying he has a lot of interest in these organizations that are promoting COVID.
And
It now
promoting
came out
vaccinations.
oh, bro, and that he was running COVID drills back in November. I think it's something like drill 201, something along those lines. I briefly read something.
And Netflix also released a fucking show called Pandemic months prior to this even being talked about. The fuck
Yeah,
kind of, dude.
it's so creepy, and the creepiest thing of all of this stuff is it's all happening at once. So not only is this happening during an election year, which all of these organizations and companies all hate the current president. Now, whether you are for Donald Trump or against him, you can't dismiss that. And on top of that, you have 5G towers going up. And like you said, I don't think 5G towers cause coronavirus. I think potentially coronavirus is being one. I think they're keeping us inside so they can throw all these 5G towers up with one nobody seeing or having no question or issue.
That's a valid point.
It it distracts everybody, you know. And then you have the World Health Organization that's basically almost run by Bill Gates, and their second biggest funder is China. Well, aside from Bill Gates, I think China's the number one biggest funder. And
But
you have to ask,
here's what this is what boggles my mind. Something called the World Health Organization. To me, that sounds like it's a company or an organization that is coalition and formed by the global powers of the world. So,
mhm,
so why wouldn't, yes, China is a part of it, yes, but so is the UK, so is the US. So I'm like wondering, like, where do all of they play into this? But Tedros has also been on the air praising a lot of the totalitarian dictatorship regimes and methods that China has taken for this COVID pandemic.
Yeah. Well, dude, what was I about to say? Man, I was about to say something. I can't remember what it was.
Was it what was it about? Was it about Donald Trump, and was it about like how people are opposing against him, Democratic, Republic, election year?
You know, it was more so just like the whole like mass hysteria thing of one, you know, like people like my parents who have CNN and all these news organizations running 24 hours a day. I mean, and people living on Facebook. One, it's so extremely unhealthy.
Yep.
And people forget it's no longer the days of Walter Cronkite where, you know, you could go to him and go, okay, he works for a liberal organization, but he had like a 90-something% trust rating from both Republicans and Democrats. You know, you don't have that place anymore where you can go. You have Fox News for Republican stuff, and then in liberal hangout and whatnot, and then you got, you know, MSNBC, ABC, and all this other stuff. And then what I question about these news organizations is ABC got sued for when they were showing or saying there were hospital bed shortages in the U.S. They were using footage from Italy.
Yeah.
That's creepy, and that's not a miss. First of all, people go, "Oh, this isn't a high school editorial. This is ABC. This had to get approved by so many different people, and it was done for a reason." Now, it's like the same thing with this whole, you know, Trump talking about disinfectants and whatnot. And at first, when I heard it, I think Nancy Pelosi say Trump, and she specifically said Trump said to inject disinfectant. So I said, what? Let me look this up. And I was like, I know he says some ridiculous shit. And when I actually watched the clip, yes, he talked about injecting it, but he posed it the question. Now, what I don't like is he kind of backed down on the stand and said he was saying it sarcastically, which I don't think he was. I think he was genuinely asking a question to the doctors where he was saying, now, is this something that we could look into as far as injections or stuff? Because I know it's UV light, all this other stuff. So I watched it and I said, okay, he didn't tell people to go and inject it. He basically said, is this something we can do? Asked it as a question. Now, that's not a very smart thing to say, even as a question. You don't have to be involved in the medical field. You know that's probably out of the realm of possibilities. But what's creepier than that is when I see the other side take and twist it, you know, and that's really what creeps me out because I hate agendas. And then on top of all this stuff, which I genuinely think some of this stuff has to do with the cover up for Jeffrey Epstein still. The fact that he had so many elites in a pedophile ring that all this, I mean, the camera outside of his cell stopped working, and his cellmate basically looked like a juice head fucking villain out of any like movie where you would get killed by somebody in prison. That's like the last guy you would want to be put in jail cell. And then the coroner's report said that bone fractures in his neck were not akin to strangulation, or they were akin to strangulation and not self-hang. And then you have all these other high-level people like Bill Gates who have flown and knew Jeffrey Epstein. And now, when I say this stuff too, people automatically, which I hate, go, "Wait, are you saying Bill Gates is like a pedophile?" No, I'm just saying he flew with the man lots of times. He's known to be circulating with him in the public arena. And what I don't like is, so like me saying, "Oh, Bill Gates flew with Jeffrey Epstein," or this and that. You're going, "Oh, well, you know, you're being a conspiracy theorist," but yet, you know, if Trump or any Republican were to say or do the same thing, it'd be circulated around all media. And I'm not saying this to defend Republicans or Democrats, because I'm like, I don't consider myself either. I think they're both two wings to the same bird, you know. And it's just, how do I want to say this? What drives me to like Donald Trump is my disdain for the hypocrisy on the other side. Just as if like Donald Trump and all these Republicans if they were doing the same thing to all these Democrats. Like even if I don't like you, I'm going to support you if I think somebody's like setting you up. Which I don't know, man. All this stuff is just it's so fishy because there's
and
so much stuff going on that's all kind of not only at the same time, it's all correlated to the same things, you know, like censoring speech on 5G. It's like what overcomes bad speech is more speech. You can't just eliminate something and expect people to forget it. It's like the Streisand effect, where you know Barbara Streisand made a long time ago made some news interview where she was saying angrily saying to people to stop coming and filming her house in Malibu. And because she said that, more people started coming and seeing it. So, you know, when I see Facebook and all these other companies censoring and hiding stuff about COVID and about 5G and about whatever else as if they're doing it for our best interest, I'm like, why are you doing that? Because let's let's say you're doing this for the best interest of everybody else. You have videos of people smoking and drinking. And yes, coronavirus could potentially kill way more people a year only because we're in quarantine right now. It's not what I don't know, man. It's just some shit is just so fishy. You know what I'm saying? And the government,
yep.
people think like I've had friends say, well, the government's not going to take away your rights. It's like, what rights are they going to take away? It's a small, slow process that they do it. You know, they can't.
And
They can't do it
we
overnight.
and we forget that we live in a bubble here in the US. The rest of the world, the rest of the fucking giant globe is not really like the US. Yes, you have democracy in other areas of the world, Australia, UK, you know, different parts of the globe, but you know, we forget, like I just can't help but to like look at how the Nazi regime rolled out what they're doing. You know, they first right after World War I, Germany is devastated, economy is shit, and people were just looking for hope. They needed a paycheck. They needed to collect food because, you know, inflation was at an all-time high. Bread was through the roof. Well, once that happens, you take a whole bunch of desperate people who just want some worth and just to put some food on their family's table, and you induct them into a new company, if you will, and this company then it carries out their own agenda, and people don't know what the hell they're going into. They're thinking that they're like, yeah, I'm just getting by, I'm just getting, you know, food for my family, and next thing you know, one action after another, and the power is removed, so no person really knows the greater picture of it, and they're just there to do their one job. And because they flick that binary switch, the electricity of the plan could then flow to the next thing. It's a programmed computer chip that gets, you know, it's a program. It's a program that once it's done, you need to get all of the transistors in line to upload the program and execute the command to do that. And that's kind of where we're headed right now with this whole entire the censorship of media. Now people are afraid to talk to one another. We're fear-based states, so we're very malleable.
It's bro.
Food is at
Like,
rationed.
it's a program. It's a literal. It's a you could write it out in an outline like you would for an essay. It's a step-by-step process. Like, you know, first you have to get people to be scared, and then you have to get people to kind of almost turn on one another, aka the snitching, which is
Los Angeles. Yep.
ridiculous. I think New York is doing it too.
Now we need to. Yep. Oh, New York's doing it too.
Yeah. Bill de Blasio. New York also. basically put out a do not resuscitate order, which they now rescinded. They put out a do not resuscitate order, basically saying if somebody had, a heart attack or this and that or died in your ambulance, to do not resuscitate them, to allocate services towards fighting COVID. Which now you have to ask, is it that big of a deal? Because one, they now say that hospital beds are not in a shortage, like they were saying. They have ventilators to the point where we're now donating ventilators to, I think, Ethiopia and possibly Somalia. And what I also don't like is things like when people were saying Tesla didn't give out ventilators, and it was being put out on all these different places, and Elon Musk is showing all these Twitter posts from people in hospitals going, hey, we're giving these out. Stop telling people we're not. And then on top of all of that, you get this like mass hysteria where, dude, this place I'm at right now is normally packed with people, and people are even scared to go outside. Bro, I shit you not. I saw some guy today, and I know you know this, but I live in one of the least densely populated areas in Colorado, if not most of the United States, where there's maybe 10,000 year-round residents here. And dude, I saw a guy running on a trail out in the middle of nowhere with a fucking mask on his face. And I'm just like, okay, bro, you realize this shit isn't floating around in the air. Like, this mass hysteria, which there is a currency in mass hysteria. I mean, for instance, all these new news organizations have more eyes on them than ever. There's a reason why they share doom and gloom and not videos of kids getting new prosthetic legs, because nobody gives a shit about that stuff. Yeah.
Headlines, man. Headlines.
It's all clickbaity headlines, and it's not like a Democrat or Republican issue. It's like being able to think logically, and there's like a middle ground of questioning, being too overzealous. Because I know we both have similar Facebook friends who I've seen post some pretty ridiculous stuff where they're they're the people who think that this is absolutely nothing, that Donald Trump is the greatest thing since sliced bread and whatnot. And then there are the people on the other end of the spectrum. People forget there's a middle ground, and it's okay to question things, because, like we were saying earlier, the government isn't known for having our best interests at heart. If they did, why have they done nothing about alcohol and tobacco? And I'm glad they haven't, because we're free. And a lot of people. Canada doesn't even have free speech. A lot of people don't know that. Here, as a Canadian, if I were to go to Toronto and say you were transgender, and I said, "Hey, what up, man?" and you were like, "I'm actually transgender. I prefer being called a woman," and I was like, "No, you're right. I'm gonna call you." I could literally get a misdemeanor and possibly jail time for saying. And people have gone to jail in the UK for cyberbullying, which is scary, because who's
you can just say one thing and it can be taken out of context. And then I have a person, or I have a really good friend who's in jail at the moment. Not to say that he didn't, commit. He committed a crime, but I know he committed, because I'm trying not to expose it, so I'm trying to say it in a way. He committed a crime which has no physical evidence. He beat somebody up, but all that person had to say was they called the police, and they just had to tell the police the story, and now his ass is in jail and getting dragged through the system. The judge is not giving him plea orders, and he can't get a fair trial, right? And we know this sort of corrupt system happens in our judicial system. Like, it's not the cleanest thing, of course not. And to say that people, or to not speculate that people that have a ton of money, which means a ton of power, won't abuse that power. I mean, look at Stalin, look at Hitler, look at Xi Jinping. of fucking China. We have prime examples that this is within our own psyche. That's what Carl Jung calls the shadow self. These are like, this is part of human nature, and we just, people, like, just please look at some more information. And you know what? But the problem is like, at the end of all of this, you know, as much as me and you want to share this information and, you know, try to wake people up to alternative points of views, like, there still is no concrete actionable step that we have come up with. We can hum and haw about it all. And I don't know if the actionable step is, hey, we need to beef up that third party that's not Democrat or Republican. We need to all come together under a fundamental basis that we all agree on, are based on to human principles off of the Constitution, what our forefathers thought, and kind of update them to our new modern age, right? Because they wrote it back in the day that didn't have a ton of spread of info. We need to come up with a big common viewpoint, and then maybe if we are able to create a third party political party that ran for power, but then we still have the fucking old heads in state that's going to fight us. That's kind of like what Donald Trump had to do, and you know, it's hard to get shit done. So I don't know if the answer then lies in creating a company in the private sector, which then is for the people, by the people, to make waves. Maybe that's the answer.
It is, because let's be real here. There is no absolute reason a congressperson who makes six figures a year should have a net worth of over $20 million.
Who is tenured, by the way.
Yes. So, you know, people on both sides, Democrat and Republican, you know, one lady like Dianne Feinstein, she makes maybe 120 something thousand a year, but has a net worth, and this is of Google, so it's probably even higher, of $50 million. Or when you hear of people like Hillary Clinton or all these other political figures going and making speeches to bankers, and they get paid $100,000 for a 15-minute speech, and you're like, huh, she must have had some really good points. And then as far as all of this stuff, what's really scary is, so a few things. One, it's great that they've expanded the unemployment for a lot of people, because so many people need it, with like 30% of the country being unemployed. But what's scary about
a huge problem in that too. I got my check, and I'm still working. Like, I'm not gonna push against getting free money, but I mean, come on. There's people who have fucking no bread on their table, and they haven't even got their shit.
Yeah, well, the scariest thing about that is people going, you wanna know what? Fuck. I'm cool. Like, most people I've never gotten unemployment before. And most people, you know, getting on unemployment, they're like, damn, I'm getting paid weekly, and now I'm getting around an extra $600 on what I'm on top of making.
Right. Fuck, normally it's a third. So it wouldn't swing normally. Like, not everyone could go on unemployment and just skate by, because like my rent is still $2,800 and I only get paid $500 a week. It's not going to cut it.
Well, you know, what is?
But now it is, with the $600 extra.
Yeah. Well, you know, with that no rent act, they're possibly gonna freeze mortgage payments for everybody, and then renters won't have to pay rent, and then landlords will be able to get subsidies from the government, so they get their money back. But like, what's scary of all that is, like,
where does the money come from, Will?
Where does all of that money come from? Two, you're going to get people who are starting to get complacent with that, and they're not going to want to get back to the way things are. Because I'm going to get a lot of flack for saying this, but the reason why most people are poor, most people, not all, but most people are poor in the United States, is because of bad money management. Like, I'm lucky enough where I had my dad who taught me and my brothers how to save money and be very fiscal. And that's why, even if I didn't get any money from the government, I could pay rent, car bills, and all this stuff for the next 2 years and not have worry in the world, because I've saved up. And like 80% of Americans don't even have savings for an extra $500 that bill came up out of nowhere.
I'm right there with you, man. I'll be like, if I live paycheck to paycheck, and I make $95K a year.
Well, that's also because you live
San
it's not because
Francisco.
it's not
But
because you're
yeah,
most of my friends who are eating fucking $10 deli sandwiches every day and buying ounces of weed and going out to bars weekly
right.
and buying like True Religions and like New Jordans and all that stuff, which
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with. It's just, you know, it's so scary because
But we
things are,
are bridging socialism right now by giving these people those sort of like free money. And again, I'm not for or against what is happening. I'm just saying that those are some constructs that do bridge that title.
yeah.
And I don't know. I'll be the first one to say, like, I don't know enough information to talk heavily on those topics.
Yeah, me either, man. And we don't have to because we're logical and you can make formulated opinions and not come to conclusions and just ask. But what's scarier than all of this stuff is, dude, like this. A lot of cops are saying suicide rates of people normally where they would respond to one suicide a week. Now they're responding to 10 plus a day.
Oh,
You know,
suicides, you said?
Yep, and I don't know if you know this because it didn't get shared by the media because of probably what I'm about to start getting into. But are you aware of the two mass shootings that went on in Nova Scotia this past week?
No.
So, as you know, the news organizations are normally super fucking stoked to report on mass shootings, um, promote agendas, like panic. So why wasn't this around? Because one guy who lost his small business to COVID went and killed 22 people. Now, let me preface by saying no rational person who loses their business is going to go out and kill a bunch of people. That's somebody who was unhinged. But it it has to be connected. Now, it was briefly reported by some news organizations, but one, I don't think it was massively reported because it happened in Canada where they have very strict gun laws and they don't want people to see that mass shooting because people don't realize mass shootings do happen in areas like New Zealand, Australia, Canada. They just keep them under wraps. It's kind of like deaths on Vail Mountain. A lot of people have died on Vail Mountain, but not many people know because Vail pays heavily to keep that stuff out of the paper. They also make sure Ski Patrol brings them down to the bottom of the mountain so they're not pronounced dead on the mountain. They're pronounced dead in the hospital. So they don't have to list it as a death on the mountain. They can list it as a death from trauma.
Makes sense.
So you get this guy who killed 22 people in Nova Scotia, in Halifax, where I was born in Nova Scotia, and very strict gun laws. Somebody lost their job due to COVID. A couple days later, another mass shooting happened, and you have to ask yourself, like, one, why is this not getting reported? And two, there are so many people right now. Like, I work part time for a private limo service. At least restaurants can still do takeout now. I know they make most of their money from alcohol, but companies like private transportation companies, dude, we're just dead in the water. And like our company lost out on over $600,000 on just the last month because instead of our big spring break area, all these hotels shut down. So you're getting, dude, my heart goes out to these people who had careers for years and then it's gone. And people go, oh, well, you're going to get money from the government and this and that, or you can go find another job. But it's like, well, dude, like fulfillment, you know? Um, you think some guy who's been working at a company for 20 years and based his value off bringing in money for his family and then losing it all in a heartbeat is cool with just getting a little extra check? Like, people want to be fulfilled. And I mean, movie theaters like AMC, I'm pretty sure they're going under, and people are going, oh, good, these big corporations. Like, well, these corporations are who gives you your money because they're not stealing it from you. You're working for them. It's like if I owned a pencil factory and I'm making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year and my workers are only making $8 an hour. Well, you have to ask yourself, did they start the pencil company? Did they get all this stuff rolling? So it's all connected. And dude, I mean, this economy can't be shut down for much longer. And people, I remember what I was going to say earlier about the WHO to take a quick
Yep.
side turn.
Yep.
There was a fucking fucking video of one of the head people at the WHO saying, literally, and I'm not interpreting it like they were interpreting Trump's disinfectant thing. He said that they will come and remove people from their homes if they're suspected with COVID. And you can look this up on YouTube. He flat out says it. And he said, if we had our way, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but he said basically, if we were able to, the best thing to do would be to go into these people's homes who are suspected with COVID and removing them and bringing them to a hospital. And it's like, no. Like, I'm cool with vaccines, but I'll tell you what, I'm sure as shit not going to get this COVID vaccine if I can. And people are going to say, oh, it's irresponsible, it's that, whatever.
And then self-police you and yell at you and blah, blah, blah.
I'm scared. I've never been scared of getting vaccines before. But, dude, this one has me scared because when there's such a giant universal push by so many heads of power, it's just
That's
creepy,
when you
man.
have to question and be scared. Yeah, like the fucking come to your door and rip you out. Again, what is this, a Gestapo? Are we what in the Nazi World War II regime? Like, just take a breath.
It's scary, man, because there's so much shit to unpack because there's a global pandemic right now going on during an election cycle. And then on top of that, there are 5G towers going up, which there have been long-term studies of. There's just, and you know, that whole Jeffrey Epstein thing was going on, pedophile ring, and, you know, being connected to Clinton, you know, all this other stuff. And it's just, it's very convenient timing. And it's like, hey, if you want to call me a conspiracy theorist, fine. But you want to know what? I shit you not. When the CDC came out, I can't remember when it was, maybe 2 months ago, they came out and said that to expect the pandemic, I'll never forget, that night I went to the grocery store and I bought $100-something worth of medicine, food, like canned stuff, just to have in supply. And I took a Snapchat of it and I sent it to all my homies. And so many of my friends were like, dude, you're being like, they were saying, oh, you're overreacting and this and that. And then all this shit happened. And I messaged them all and I'm like, dude, see what I'm saying? Like,
I think you know, for the whole entire world and whoever is going to listen to this, it's not real until it's real. And it's not real until it's in your face. And then by time then, it's too late. And which brings me to the next point, you know, like, yes, the whole world's in the shitter. Fucking and we as normal citizens can't physically go out and do things. Like, we don't have the right to freedom of speech anymore because we keep getting censored by all of the places that we would have the freedom of speech. If we say anything in the public eye, we're shunned upon. We don't have the right to, you know, of course, down the rabbit hole of right to bear arms, etc. That I'm still hopeful for, because this is why this sort of thing is needed. Just the right to protect ourselves in case any weird shit goes down from the government perspective, who we found, by the way, and the citizens. But now we don't even have the right to congregate in protest because we have to shelter in place. We're all 3 billion people are on home lockdown. They're on home house arrest. But you know what, man? Where does this lead me to is, okay, how can I as an individual, aside from having conversations like you and being open-minded to being wrong and being right.
Yeah.
Okay, where does that leave me and you, man? Where does that leave like the average person, the average citizen and worker to move forward? How do we act today? How do we act tomorrow? It's upside down now.
Oh, sorry. There we go.
You're still upside down.
Jesus fucking, there we go.
There you are.
Yeah, man,
where do we go? You know, you're out there, you're hustling, you're getting your physical. To me, this was a wake-up call. I used to sometimes smoke a cigarette every hour or two. Now I'm way more mindful about the food, the vitamins, the water, the smoke, everything I put inside my body, I'm more mindful. So I think
I
that,
used to not even wash my hands when I would like go to the gym, touch
yes,
all these weights. I would touch my dude, like just so many things you don't think of, and it is great. And what is it's great, and it's also not great at the same time. What's great is you can take advantage of this downtime. We have lots of things at our disposal, like learn a new language. There are lots of things to do because, like I was saying, it's like quarantine right now can be like binge eating a bunch of McDonald's. You can sit at home and just watch Netflix and just chill and hang out. But at the end of this, whether it's a month from now, a week, or 3 months from now, when you come out of this, you're gonna be like, "Fuck! Did I just waste all that time doing nothing when I could have been doing this or that?" And that's when people get caught up in their stuff too. Like, you and I are both heavy independent freedom type guys. It blows my mind when people think that the Constitution should be changed, like the freedom of speech and stuff like that, and all that other stuff, because there's a place for it, but also the same kind of idiotic people who are. I can understand why people protested the governor of Michigan. Definitely don't think they did it in the right way, considering blocking a lot of ambulances. And what if
yes,
somebody had a fucking heart attack, or what if somebody's kid went into anaphylactic shock, or anything happened
there's
and
a right
they
way to
couldn't
do it and a wrong way to do it.
exactly. And so, like I said, there's a middle of the ground, and what people don't realize is it doesn't fucking hurt to just look into it and question it. And like you said, I'm not married to an idea. Like I used to hate Donald Trump. And then I started doing research and I was like, well, he tweets a lot of stupid shit, but okay, he's not as bad as I thought. And, I used to be married to certain ideas. And then, when you listen to more introspective type things, like you said, podcasts, like just listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, where you get so many different points of view, it opens up your mind to start thinking. Now, I'm not questioning if we live on a flat earth or if space is fake or if we live on a hollow earth, but I'm going to question reasonable things like, okay, well, is the earth flat? Well, who has an agenda and who can benefit from the earth being flat and perpetuating? Nobody. But, there are logical things and conspiracies where you can come to conclusions with. Like when people talk about not NASA. Well, did you know NASA was run by Warner von Braun, who, if he was alive today, he would be prosecuted for crimes against humanity because he was a Nazi doctor and did like horrible experimentation, and he was friends with Disney, and so there are things that you can kind of piece together, and then there are things that is just like totally out of the ordinary, like lizard people living in lizard, high level elites that are lizard people and feed off people's misery. Like that doesn't make too much sense. But a giant pedophile ring run by the world's most powerful people, Jeffrey Epstein, who had cameras in his house, who people think he was an Israeli intelligence agent, gathered all this information. There's just a lot of things that go into like formulating opinion on this stuff, and I just hate that, like, when somebody like you or me questions something or even brings up something about 5G, like I made a post and people go, "No, Will, you're not one of those tinfoil hat kind of guys, are you?" I'm like, well, no, but I'm questioning shit that should be questioned, because why wouldn't they be talking about 5G to people? Because that's all cell phone companies talk about is promoting 5G on phones. So why are they hiding these 5G towers going up? Why are these workers burning them? And why are they censoring it? So, like, what I wish people would do is, now granted, one great way to do this is to take psychedelics sometime in your life, kind of open up your mind a little bit, which is,
Break down your own ego walls and,
dude, that's what happened to me when I moved out to Colorado. I I met Lucy on a hike, and dude, literally, I deleted my Facebook for I think like 4 or 5 months that day, and dude, it changed me from being that like douchey gym bro, like when I moved out here to start trail running and that. Being more open-minded and not so closed-minded of one-way thinking, and the illusion of, or what is the word? The danger to knowledge is not ignorance, but the illusion of knowledge. And it's dangerous when you get people who are saying things as fact when they don't know.
I don't think
Like all
any
the
would be right. Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know. And it's like
Well,
we're just questioning it. We're just talking about it. We could be wrong, and if we are, I fucking hope I'm wrong. I hope
you know, man, I don't want to
the
live in this fucking crazy world that like I've mapped out in my mind, but like it's just, and and it's interesting because I used to go so deep. So I went so deep into this rabbit hole of all of these tinfoil hats and etc. back in 2012 era. Like I was starting to travel abroad. I was getting different perspectives from German citizens who I went to abroad with, French students. And I was just getting a taste of like how they grew up and they seen America and their different perspectives, their school system, their socioeconomic structure, how they don't really have that much homeless, and like I got a bunch of world views when I traveled, and I dove deep into these, and I used to be, I used to, I wouldn't say I didn't ever like really believe firsthand, because as soon as I would believe something, then my mind would be changed by some new information later on. And it's silly to think to hold my identity to a particular stance that is
yeah,
constantly changing and debunked. And it goes to what you were talking about, science. Science is an ever rotating thing. Like today, we can't prove that ghosts exist. Well, that's just because we don't technically have the sensors and the technology to see past a certain spectrum of frequencies. Just like we weren't able to produce X-rays or produce a fucking infrared rays in other,
well, it's like the global cooling that happened back in the 70s and 80s. Scientists, the majority of them,
right.
said that there was a global cooling coming in a new ice age. And now, I'm not a climate, I hate the word climate change denier. I like the word more skeptic, because I had an environmental science teacher up here at Colorado Mountain College named Dr. John Kozrowski. He's a geographer and climatologist for National Geographic. He also has climbed Everest and makes his living mountaineering. So this is not some guy who hates nature and hates scientists. He's a literal scientist. And what opened my mind in talking about not being married to ideas was when people say things like 99% of scientists are in agreement that climate change is caused by man. Well, he showed us that study. And in those scientists, most of them are doctors, mechanics, engineers, people who aren't climatologists. And what he also said was all of his colleagues who, in their books, promoted the climate change being pushed by humans, all somehow got all the funding they needed and whatnot. Anybody who denied it or questioned it didn't. And now this isn't going on a tangent on climate change. It's just an example of not being married to an idea, and that science is not only forever changing, but there's like there's specific ways to come to a conclusion, and things are ever changing, and some things aren't, some things are, like like scientists back in the day used to think that people who were gay were possessed by the devil, and then they did electrotherapy and lobotomies and stuff on people with mental health disorders and whatnot. And those were done by scientists. Now, granted, we have a lot more technology, but technology doesn't mean knowledge.
No.
And it's just like this whole thing comes back to people should just question what's going on because it doesn't hurt. there's good reason to question what's going on because the stakes have never been higher. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's like serious shit. Like I was saying, like how serious is this stuff? You know, is how serious is COVID? Now, granted, a lot of people haven't died, or they originally projected like 2 million this month, and it's only like 60,000. Now, granted, that's also because we are in quarantine now. But it's like,
But there's even people who have come out and saying it was like, oh, my mother was tested positive for COVID, and me and my dad, we were here taking care of her for 4 weeks, and we don't feel a thing. We should, and when we got tested, we were negative. So we're being led to believe that COVID is so contagious. And but I think it all goes down to where do those contagion numbers come from? It comes from the PCR testing, these test swabs. Who says what is what? Which is World Health Organization and all of these other scientists who are up in the CDC, et cetera, who are then funded by Bill Gates. So pretty much if Bill Gates says that you have coronavirus because he decides to test for something, an exosome inside your body, which is a normal immunological response to stresses, to, I don't know, any radiation, to cancer, to fucking a normal respiratory illness. Like the whole classification of people who already have these illnesses, and now if they die when they're tested because of whatever is labeled COVID-19, they test for. This is almost like biblical times mark of the beast, sort of like weird Orwellian type things that it scares the fuck out of me. But
yeah, and Bill Gates has it, and let's play devil's advocate and say, even though he has talked about depopulation, let's say he was talking about it in a good way, talking about limiting the numbers so there aren't as many mortality deaths in infants in third world countries and whatnot.
right.
So let's give him the benefit of the doubt. So let's just say he is a good person. But this guy who's promoting a disease or promoting a vaccine that would be given to billions of people by the richest man in the world, you don't think when people say, oh, this is what I hate more than anything. When people go, oh, he's so rich, he doesn't care about having more money. Okay, let's break that down. If he genuinely doesn't care, then why does he have billions of money at his disposal? Why wouldn't he just live off a small amount? And listen, I don't think people should have their money taken away because that's like, I think that's evil. But at the same time, if he's so great, yeah, he donates whatever amount, which is basically like him donating his millions of dollars is like donating $100 to somebody. He has so much to gain from this vaccine, and this vaccine is already out. Did you hear that hot mic at the White House press conference where the guy? Did you hear that hot mic video where these two White House workers didn't know the mic was live, and they were joking around, basically saying, they're like, "Oh, I don't think it's that serious." He's like, "I already got my vaccine. We already got our vaccines anyways."
Yeah, they got brought up on Joe Rogan. They're bullshitting it. They're like, was he joking? And yeah, I heard that as well, just off a Joe Rogan clip. And I was like,
yeah.
Well, first off, you the way it was said wasn't a joking manner. But even if it was, okay, maybe they were joking around. But again, it just goes back to you can't take it for face value. Even if it's something that is going with the agenda of what we're thinking is happening, we have to question it. We're like, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Who knows? Yeah. But man, I think this just leaves us to what can we do next, which is exactly what you're doing, man. We need to get reconnected with nature. We need to get reconnected with ourselves. Going inside, whether I'm a very spiritual person, man. Like I don't like to give it dogma or names, whether it's Allah, Buddha, universe, fucking galaxy, the world. I think that this is kind of what is meant to happen. Going inside yes, physically, we all have been told to go shelter in place and stay on our homes for months on end. But this is also a point in time to metaphysically turn inward. Realize that a fucking lady, whether it was a lady in China eating a bat, ruined your fucking career or destroyed your pension
I
fund.
think it was a pangolin. They think it was a pangolin. Those
Pangolin.
little like killed armadillos. Either way,
pangolin, the fucking Wuhan level 4 biolab, whatever the fuck it was. It's just it's a weird thing. But for me, this is I'm affected. My life is affected, of course. You know, my work has changed. My days have changed. I don't really enjoy my mornings like I used to anymore. I don't really have that much time to reflect. I'm constantly busy. But this has been the best thing that has ever happened to me because of what I said about turning inward and seeing myself in the mirror, seeing you as another expression of me, seeing everybody else that is being affected. You know, I give them empathy and compassion, just like I give to myself. I'm more loving now. I embrace community more. I am more apt to take care of myself and to plan out for my future. Yeah, you get fucking punched in the face. Yeah, like your restaurant goes out, you're not on unemployment. Yes, it sucks. It happened. But how you choose to respond to what happened to you is going to determine whether you rise or you fall. And that is something that we can all take away from this pandemic globally, that we need to rise up and really connect on a human race level and help one another out, because we're all fucking struggling, man.
It's funny you said that, because one, I couldn't agree more, and two, I was thinking about that the other day, because there are real problems, and then there are just life problems, and people forget losing a job is a life problem. A real problem is a single mother who has to support multiple children and is unsure where her next check is coming. That's a real problem. And like when people talk about how horrible this is that they haven't been able to go to their senior graduation or this and that, this year, bro. So not only did this COVID stuff happen to me, but I moved my entire life in business to South Carolina for a lady who I thought I was going to live with and be married to the rest of my life. And, liar and cheater, and I'm not going to get into all that stuff, but all that stuff happened. By the way, when I moved to South Carolina, I paid $20,000 up front for a house to be rented out for the entire year. I spent another $5,000 of my money furnishing the entire place. And come on Thanksgiving, which is the day she said she wanted to divorce and I left, I left with all that stuff. And then I had my brand new work trailer broken into and all this stuff. And this has been my best year ever. And it's like, I really do love to quote that life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how do you react to it. And I could go, oh, my life savings is gone, this and that. I almost made that back since I moved here in December. And on top of that, I said, oh, well, I could just be a lazy fat piece of shit and just wallow in my own self pity, or I could get back into fitness and trail running and all this stuff that I used to love doing that I kind of got held up from by the person I was with. So it's like when people are saying, oh, this is so bad I couldn't go to my college graduation. Motherfucker, how about the teenage kids who were training their entire lives for the Olympics, like gymnastics, for example? There was a prime age where there's a reason Shawn Johnson and Simone, I can't remember her last name, like the best gymnasts ever, are a certain age. Oh, you couldn't go to your college graduation? How about these motherfuckers who trained their entire life and the Olympics get postponed until next year, and they, one, might not be as good as they were before. And, or, I mean, there's so much here at hand people could complain about, but, like, people seem to forget that everybody has their own problems, whether they choose to show it or not. And yeah, this sucks, but you can always take advantage of the situation. And like for example, I have there's plenty of ways that people don't realize to make money. Like the other day, I went and picked up a bunch of wooden furniture for free. I found off Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, and I'm going to restain and sell them. And I'm turning my power washing exterior home cleaning business into a sanitation business. So I'm starting to put together website templates for businesses now that here in Colorado they're going to start opening up for me to be able to say, hey, now that you guys are going to be opening up, I can come by, I can spray your place down, I can spray your benches down, and I can make it a weekly thing. You can advertise to your customers that you are having not only this place clean, but I'm using CDC and EPA approved environmentally safe chemicals to clean this. And on top of that, I can also power wash all the chemicals and stuff off for you down the road, you know? So there's lots of opportunities to come.
There
It's
is. And this is just a time of being able to be nimble and shift quickly and pivot. It's all about adaptability, man. It's all about like us adapting to the current situation at hand and not giving into the fear-based mindset that the media and the rest of the world is pushing onto us, you know? Dude, and that's where the problem is. The real problem doesn't lie outside. The boogeyman doesn't lie. It lies in here, man. It lies in here with the fear and the excuses and the boohoo me's. Like this is a time for all of us to take ownership, like Jocko Willink would do, and
yeah.
And my boy David Goggins. You know, who are you going to be after this pandemic 2020? How are you going to tell your grandkids what you are doing for the biggest freedom grab in the century? Like this
Oh,
is a
I was
time.
watching Tiger King and eating fucking Cheetos. It's like, you know, there are
Right.
people who are doing that. And granted, if that's your prerogative, fine.
Right.
But like
It's your
you said,
thing.
Jocko Willink, extreme ownership, you know? It People don't realize, like I could say, oh, that divorce, me losing all that money happened because the woman I was with cheated on me a bunch. I could say that. But deep down, I don't believe that.
Right.
I believe it was 100% my fault. Why? I saw the red flags. I saw the lies and deceit. I saw the previous cheating before we got married, but I chose to go on even though friends and family said, Will, that's not smart. So is it really her fault? No. If I was an invalid and an idiot, then I would say, yeah, it's probably her fault. But I'm a smart guy, and I chose to ignore those because I put my emotions in front of logic. So I genuinely think everything that's happened in my life is 100% my fault. Unfortunately, most people don't take that kind of ownership,
Right.
and it all comes back to it's okay to question what's going on, and even if you don't question what's going on, just look into it. And I don't want to sound like an Eddie Bravo, but just look into it because as soon as you do, that's when you're gonna go, oh, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't have called that guy a tinfoil hat conspiracy. Maybe there's not some mastermind thing going on, but there's some creepy shit that's all coincidentally happening. So it's like, what do I believe?
Exactly, man. Exactly. Because we can't believe the media. We can't believe everything that we're told. You know, we're trying to balance our lives between fear and harmony, and we're just trying to keep our lives and our livelihood moving on towards prosperity. And I think that's a mindset game. I think that, you know, the powers that will be, things will roll out, right? Things, you know, just like the powers will be, will do what they do, and no one's going to stop it. Any chance that we can have for any freedom grab, we need to be paying attention closely is more important. I never paid attention to politics more than I pay attention now. Like this is a super important time for all of us to become empowered and really absorb information and make our own choices, but not given to the fear, man. This is a chance for us to become more whole and centered within ourselves and really follow our own North Star of whatever that means to us. Whether it's to help the world or be a coach or be a photographer, you name it, You just got to follow your passion, live life to the fullest, count your blessings, 24 hours in a day, you know, reverse engineer 24 hours, no excuses. If you want something, make it happen. You're the only accountable person that's here. And, you know, the rest will follow suit. There's no more crying over this, you know, and how I'm going to be treating, like, I'm not, in my mind, I'm no longer paranoid. And it's something that should be talked about as far as for how fear suppresses your immune system, right? If your body is simultaneously being chased away from a tiger and you have to fight a viral infection at the same time, your body's going to put energy at running away from the tiger. And outside, seeing people coming towards you, that's the equivalent of the tiger fear response system. My adrenaline's pumping just walking outside. But I am able to uncouple these fear mechanisms in my head by getting more informed. And now when I go outside, man, I'm just here. I'm more present than I've ever been. I'm more alive. Because like I no longer engage in the fear mongering, and I just let what's going to happen play out, right? Like our 24 hours are like a movie, dude. You just gotta play it out.
Yeah, it really is crazy, and it is when people say like the doom and gloom, like all people are like this and that, or all people are being blind to whatever. That's not the case, because there are plenty of people like you and myself. I mean, you are who you surround yourself with. You know what I mean? If you're a doom and gloom kind of a person, that's successful people don't hang out with losers.
Or
It's
even virtually. I mean, or even watch those.
100%, dude.
That's the
Like
same
my
thing.
favorite quote by Joe Rogan. He was talking about haters and negative comments on YouTube, and he couldn't have said any better. He goes, do you think Michael Jordan or LeBron James ever go on somebody's YouTube video and go, you're a loser, you suck? Like, no. Like, you know, and that's what's great about knowing that there are people like you and me out there who are not only questioning what's going on, but, and it sounds bad to say it like this, but taking advantage of what's going on. And people say, you're taking advantage and capitalizing on a pandemic? That's horrible. People are suffering. Yeah, but I'm not making them suffer. So should I choose to suffer as well, or should I be the one to say,
Are you part of the solution? Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, because you want to know what? This whole country does better when we all do better. So, like, if I'm more successful, I'm a giving person. I can help others to make.
And by you capitalizing on that with this cleaning business, you're employing jobs. You're now, you know, people that would once commit suicide or mass shootings now have meaning and purpose to their days, all because you decided to capitalize on it just because you see a problem, you're offering a solution, and voila, it's just offering your gifts to the world. Of course, yeah, there's such thing as over gouging, but that's a whole nother topic. But to offer your services, you got to be very careful on how we classify things as humans, right? Like the whole term conspiracy theorist automatically tunes people out and makes you think, oh, tinfoil hat, don't listen to them. But like,
you know, the CIA created that term, right?
Yes, I do know that. And there is truth to every lie or every conspiracy. Whether it's all true, that's irrelevant. But there is some truth. So vet through the facts and decide for yourself. And that's where Brian Rose comes in. I don't know if you've seen the platform that he's building. Dude, next level shit. Brian Rose, if you ever see this video, man, right on. He's making the freedom of speech platform that distributes all of this content through the blockchain. He, over 24 hours, this dude raised $300K, and people like myself voted with their dollars for freedom of speech. So all of these people who are being banned off of YouTube, off of Facebook, he's giving them a voice and live streaming it for the whole world to see, and then we are able to download and distribute as needed if we want. And people like this need to exist, especially during this time. And I mean, it's a plug because on May 3rd, Rose Ike 3 is coming out, and I'm fucking pumped. Over 1 million people are able to stream live, and so the server cost for that is well over 100 grand. So he's just been an advocate to get all of these doctors like Buttar and Shiva and Kaufman on board to talk about what the fuck's really going on, because clearly the technocratic Silicon Valley companies don't have the best interests of the people in mind because of money, because of power, because of, I don't know. I don't know.
100%, man.
We'll end it there, man. You know, we have the power. We, the people, have the power, and we got to start it individually and take care of our own lives to give back. We got to put on our own oxygen masks so we can go and help our other individuals. And I'm here, man. I'm fucking charged up. I'm in the fight. I'm literally producing COVID-19 test swabs. I am working 7 days a week. I am shifting my whole entire schedule to give me less free time towards this pandemic, but simultaneously I have to question the authority and power and the work and the people that play. And I want to reach out to, like, you know, just like Brian is, I want to reach out to different minds and see where, you know, and bounce ideas off of and talk to people and of normal citizens. Like, where is this? You know, like, why? I haven't seen too many people hop on these Zoom calls and use it like this.
And this what needs to be done, because the only other thing that's going on are these celebrities going, like, now's the time for healing and just be, and while they're in their giant mansion, it's like, okay, yeah, people should, but you also got to realize not everybody has that. And I think the most important thing out of everything that we said was what you said about people being mindful of their actions and what they're doing right now, because what they're doing right now is going to be impacting them potentially for the rest of their entire life.
Yep.
You know?
Absolutely.
And, you know, too, before we end, which is a perfect time because my phone's about to die, but we never, not that it was on this topic, so it would be more of a you and I discussion. But I want to start chatting with you more about some FPV stuff.
Okay.
Now that I have all this free time, I really want to try to, like, either build one or maybe buy a ready to fly one. But
Totally.
yeah, we'll have to chat about that soon. We chat almost daily on Instagram anyway. So
yeah, we'll catch up even more on other topics. But I'm super glad that you popped on and that we can at least have this discussion, because I've been having a lot of pent up feelings, and I've been watching a lot of videos, and this is a good chance to just have a long form conversation and vent about these topics and kind of put the ideas out there. Even though we didn't go too deep, but we touched on fucking 50 plus topics for anybody who watches this to be able to just dive into. It just takes a Google search of, and yeah, that's it, man. Well, I love you, brother. Keep the peace, get home safely, be safe, do good, and I'll catch you on the flip side, my man.
Yeah, thanks, dog. Definitely. This was fun.
It's a good time. Cheers, man.
Yeah, bro.
Stay safe.
Yeah, I'll hit you up here.
All right, man. Sounds good. Talk to you soon. See ya.